Hello and welcome to Odds Premier League Match Day 3. We have Brighton fighting toe-to-toe with Man City and Arsenal on top of the table, and we have our king, Tom Rennie, to analyze with us this new match day. Hello, Tom Rennie.
Oh, don't talk about league table in week 2. Come on, we just can't, can we? We can't do 36 more weeks of league table. It means nothing right now, or if you're top, everything.
Well, who knows? Perhaps Brighton fans are delighted to see their team on top of the table. I guess so. It will be their great achievement, of course, to look themselves and see the table and see Brighton on top. Good. Well done, the Cherby. Well done. Well, guys, remember, analyze with us this new match day. We already have some comments from Sheffield, from Marco, from Jess Hey M. Let's make some money. So don't forget to press the like, subscribe, and now let's go on with the show. And we have already Adam telling us that he's feeling confident for some winners this weekend. So if you feel confident, we also have a welcome offer with 1xBet. You see, exclusive offer, 1xBet up to 130%. Use our promo code ODDSPEDIAYOUTUBE. And, let's see. 1xBet website with the games we have today on Thursday. And Tom, you've been really good at predicting the first game in these 2 weekends, the early kickoff that most of the people say is difficult. Let's see if you nail another one, because even you nailed the exact score for the last 2. So on Friday, we have Chelsea, Luton Town, very bad start again for Chelsea, no matter how much money they spent. They drew with Tottenham. They were defeated by your West Ham. I'm sure you were at the stadium, so you could see Caicedo's debut with a penalty. You could see Mudryk on the bench. A lot of problems for Chelsea. And I was reading a piece of stat very interesting about Enzo. He had only beaten Bournemouth of the teams staying right now in the Premier League. Wow.
Yeah, look, I've been to both Chelsea games, start of the season, the Liverpool draw on the opening day and the West Ham loss last weekend. And what's interesting about them is you can look at these guys, people like Enzo Fernandez, people like Moises Caicedo, people like Carney Chukwuemeka, not Mudryk, but the others. And you're like, yeah, they're obviously good. They're obviously good. They're obviously talented. Enzo Fernandez, extremely tidy. But I can't help but feel when I look at Enzo, is he better than Jorginho? I don't see it. I don't see it as a significant upgrade from someone who started in Italy's midfield for the best part of 5-6 years. Very good at keeping the ball, very good at sideways passing. And in fact, Jorginho is better at penalties. So I don't know if the price tag justifies the huge upgrade it should be from the previous player to this player. So look, very tidy, very competent footballers. Right now, Chelsea as a team doesn't quite work. There is no striker. I don't get how you can spend $1 billion on players and not have a striker at this point. And you could say, wait, but what about Nkunku? Well, look, if Nkunku gets injured, your season's over. That doesn't seem like particularly good planning to me. And Nicholas Jackson looks like a tidy player. Doesn't look like a striker to me. I think he looks more of an attacking winger, attacking midfielder, but we'll see. He certainly isn't a number 9 Lukaku type, who, by the way, is still a Chelsea employee, but not playing for anyone right now, which is another weird anomaly to Chelsea's season. So all sorts of issues. But I do feel like it is going to come good. So we can continue to have some fun with Chelsea over the next few weeks because it's going to be fun. But I don't believe that Pochettino and the quality of player there is going to have a bad season like last season. Look, it might not be a title, right? It might not be winning the league, but it may well be top 4, it may well be top 6, it may well be the FA Cup, and that seems like an improvement on what was happening under Frank Lampard. So, in the end, we'll start backing Chelsea, and we may well start this week, because Luton Town are the opponents, right? And Luton didn't play last week, because Kenilworth Road is not ready. They did play their first week against Brighton, and got their pants pulled down. They were walloped by Brighton by 4, and it could have been worse. There is not a great deal of Premier League quality here. I don't think they're going to get 20 points. And I'll just tell everyone right now.
Oh, Norwich.
I'll be backing them to lose every week. Okay, this is going to go full Norwich here. It's West Ham next week, so I might change it next week. But apart from that, every week, because in the end, the quality matters. And when you come up, sometimes there's a burst of exuberance, new team, but they're not going to have a home game until week 4. Then there's a break. So where's the momentum going to come from? We're 6-7 weeks into the season before they start getting a run of maybe winnable games. I think that's an issue. And I go across it from Morris to Adebayo to Marvelous Nakamba to Tahit Chong to Lockyer. Don't see any Premier League quality. So how do you make some money here? Well, bet on Chelsea to win. The odds are pretty low. 1.26 for Chelsea right now is no good because it's not that safe. So what I would do is look at your handicaps. -1 handicap is 1.67. -2 handicap is 2.75. That's 3-0 or above, which I think they will do. If you're not feeling that brave, and I am feeling that brave on this one, just go Chelsea to win to 0 without conceding. Double your money, 2-1, all sorts of Chelsea wins. People might well say, what about Luton scoring a goal? But until I see it on a regular basis, it's not something I put my money on.
Well, Marco is actually saying the same. Asian handicap -2 for Chelsea, but I never trust Chelsea for Samson, so not many people trust Chelsea. Harry, he has the Chelsea's emblem in the in the badge, so he trust Jackson to score. First half handicap for Chelsea. Well, the odds for Chelsea, as you can see, Chelsea to win is only 1.2. So you have to be a little bit creative. Let's see if we see the first victory for Pochettino's men in the Premier League. I'm talking about Pochettino. Let's talk about his former team. Tottenham doing way better under the new manager. They got themselves a good victory against Man United. We saw Vicario actually doing some great saves. And now they are playing against Bournemouth. They've been competitive. They lost to Liverpool, but even they scored the first goal. They had some chances. They got a draw against West Ham. Tottenham to win is 2.05, but we saw Tottenham with a lot of problems in the away form last season.
I think 2 is really nice for Tottenham just to win. I've got a couple of other bets for you, but I think just 2-1 for Tottenham to win this game is something I'd probably lump on this week because Bournemouth, look, they should not have sacked Gary O'Neill, right? Whatever we can say about the quality of Iraola as a manager, and we're yet to see it in the Premier League, these players were his players, they were his team, and now what are they trying to do? More expansive football? Is that true? Is that all we're seeing? I'm not sure it is. I think that on any other week of the season, West Ham would have beaten them for a few for the first game of the season, but because of West Ham's chaotic time, I think their eye was slightly off that game, and that led to the result that was. And last week, look, they could have been 2-0 up in 3 minutes, but they also could have lost the game 7-1. So, I'm not sure how much I'd take from the Liverpool game. If you are going to bet Bournemouth here, just at 3.5 to 4-1 might be worth your time if you really fancy them. Personally, I do not. In terms of Tottenham, impressed, I got to say, impressed. We spoke about this before the opening day. The misery of Tottenham Hotspur is their big issue. The misery of the last 3 or 4 years. Ever since the Champions League final, what has Daniel Levy been trying to do? He's been trying to get some spurts out of the team that got to the final. So Mourinho tried it, sacked before the League Cup final, bizarre. Antonio Conte got some results, sure, but was it good to watch? No, it was appalling. And if you're not going to win things playing like that, it's horrible. And it ended exactly the way we all kind of thought it would. A little bit later than maybe we thought it would, but it goes exactly that way. But what Ange Postecoglou did in the victory last week against Manchester United and the opening day draw against Brentford as well, told him to go and have some fun. Pape Sarr, go and have some fun. Yves Bissouma, go and enjoy yourself. Heung-min Son, Richarlison, no pressure. Go win the game. It doesn't matter. You're a good player. Work hard, enjoy it, and you'll get a result. And that's what happened. So, weirdly, Tottenham might be worth watching this season. And weirdly, I'd be picking them out across the season as a both teams to score side. I think you're going to get lots of goals in Tottenham games this season. So, just on this game, if you want to avoid the result, I'm going Tottenham, but you can avoid it. Both teams to score and over 2.5 goals in this match brings you in at just under 2-1, 1.8. That looks real nice. Near double your money odds. You can also take Tottenham, as I will this weekend, to win with a -1 handicap. If you do that, you bring Tottenham's 2-1 up to 3.5. 2-0 win for Tottenham, 3.5. 3-1 win, 2.5. That's nice. That is really, really nice. So I like the look of Tottenham. I like the look of this game, and I'll pick out Tottenham to win in a high-scoring match.
This is very nice. And betting is picking one of your favorite players, Madison Shots, for instance. Desta is telling us that the Spurs don't have a killer striker. Well, Richarlison still has to score his first goal, but this looks interesting, this game. Bournemouth, Tottenham, and one of the leaders, Arsenal, playing at home against Fulham. 2 victories for Arsenal. Against Crystal Palace away, with Odegaard scoring a penalty, against Nottingham Forest at home, and Fulham, you mentioned at the beginning of the season, even if they beat Everton away, that this season they are going to struggle, and we saw a lot of deficiencies in their defeat at home against Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, on Arsenal, the 2 victories this season have not been particularly convincing in terms of like 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 victories, right? Because Forest were better than I estimated going into the first weekend. So I've got to give credit to Nottingham Forest there. And Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park are a very tough nut to crack, as the cliche goes. So a 1-0 tight victory on a penalty. I thought it'd be a couple more, but still picking Arsenal in my trio brought us in that 3-1 bet last week. So a lot to like about Arsenal. I think the issue is, and it's everywhere right now, there is not a Haaland. There is not a Kane. There is not a Lewandowski. There is not even a, I don't know, who can we put in here? Callum Wilson? Would Callum Wilson score 15 goals for Arsenal this season? I think he probably would. Alexander Isak at Newcastle. The striker's missing. You can do all this with the midfielder, and I think Declan Rice is excellent, world-class acquisition. Odegaard, amazing. Saka, Martinelli, we go on. But who's the striker? Jesus, always injured. Not a 15-goal man anyway. And Nketiah, we saw the big miss against Palace. He'll score you 10, but that's not enough. So I do think there's an issue there ongoing for Arsenal. In terms of Fulham, I think the squad still looks weak. I think the squad offensively looks poor. I think losing Mitrovic is a massive, massive blow for them, and Raul Jimenez is not going to cover that 15-20 goal gap. And that 15-20 goal gap is the difference between 11th and 16th. And I think that's where Fulham will probably end up come the end of this campaign. In terms of this game, a weird thing is happening with Arsenal at the moment. And it happened, in fact, with the Fulham game last season at Emirates Stadium. They open the scoring, the opposition, and then go on to win it, Arsenal. Think about Bournemouth, think about Southampton nearly. That was a draw, that one. Think about the Fulham game last year. It keeps on happening. And I was going through the bets for this one, and there's a couple of obvious ones, which I'll get to in a second. But Arsenal to win from behind is 8.5. Arsenal to win from behind is 8.5. Now, I think that's really interesting because it keeps on happening. Arsenal start slowly, first 5 minutes, opposition score, and they come back to win the game in the end. So do not avoid that one. Think about it. I think that could be worth some money here in this one, considering Arsenal to win. As you can see, there's only 1.2, 1.3. The other more safe bets to bring that up a little bit is Arsenal to win with a -1 handicap. That brings you at 1.57, 1.6, 1.7 probably before we get to the game. So that's quite nice because that's a 2-0 victory for Arsenal, 3-1 victory for Arsenal. Feels very likely if you're looking at scores. And also, both teams to score, but this game not being a draw no bet, however you like to think of that, that comes in at 2.5. So 2.5 for both teams to score and this game to not be drawn. That's Arsenal win. That's Fulham win if you like it. But both teams score, no draw, 2.5. Nice too.
Well, Viper is telling us actually both teams to score and Arsenal to win. For instance, Eugene, I don't even know why Arteta don't play Trossard. And we have a lot of people missing Mitrovic. Of course, Fulham will struggle without Mitrovic. I think there is a lack of number 9s in the market everywhere in Europe. That's why we are seeing these crazy prices. And for Arsenal, it's going to be exactly the same this season. We stay in London for the next game, Brentford Crystal Palace, good start for Brentford, 4 points, and Bournemouth already 3 goals, one of the top scorers of the Premier League, whereas Crystal Palace, we are seeing an under. 1-0 against Sheffield, 1-0 against Arsenal. Will this be an under as well?
I think the only way it's not an under is if Brentford score the goals. I think Palace at the moment really do lack goals. Elise remains injured. Eze hasn't quite found his form as yet. And who is the striker? Eduardo. I'm not sure how good he is. And he seems to have been easily controlled and contained by their opponents on the first couple of games. Look, I do think here that Brentford are extraordinary. I got to say, I don't get how they do it. It's a similar feeling to what I have about Brighton in a different way. Lost Tony, lost Raya, and you wouldn't have noticed last week at Fulham with that 3-0 victory. Bryan Mbeumo, extraordinary performance. Yoann Wissa, who I don't have a great deal of time for, looks really good. The midfield trio, Norgard, Janelt, and Jensen, solid, unspectacular, but solid. And defensively, really hard to beat. They beat you in pure determination. And Mbeumo's ability up front, we may have been sleeping on him because of how much we focus on the quality of Ivan Toney. So, look, I think that I'll be backing Brentford here most likely. Last season, this was a draw, this game. It was a 1-1 draw with a late equaliser for Brentford. Ben Mee scored late on to get them the draw. And the draw here at around 3.5. Draw here at 3.5 looks really interesting to me. I would say 1-1, 0-0, low scoring, under 2.5, definitely. But just the draw at 3.5 is nice. That will go up to 4 before we get there. I really fancy 1-1. I don't do exact bets, as you know, but draw on both teams to score brings you in at 4.5. If you don't think 3.6, 3.7 is really good, just both teams to score on its own is 1.95. That I quite like as a 1-1 draw. But the other one I picked out for you is just how good Bryan Mbeumo has been at the start of the season. He has been extraordinary in the first couple of weeks of this campaign. Brentford to win and Bryan Mbeumo to score any time is another one I'd be looking at here. Brentford to win is relatively low at 2-1. Throw an anytime goal scorer in there in Bryan Mbeumo, and I think there is money to be made in the Brentford market. So loads of bets there. I'm not picking out Palace, but I do agree low scoring. Let's move on to Manchester United against Nottingham Forest, shall we? Manchester United, hasn't it just been awful at the start of this season for Manchester United? The performance against Wolverhampton Wanderers, extraordinary how they won that game. And against Tottenham last week, it was so listless, I think is the word I'm looking for. It was so pointless. It was so nothing that I kind of wonder where they're going to go from here. Again, we go into a season where Marcus Rashford is the striker. I don't want to go Roy Keane on this, but why is Marcus Rashford the striker? He's not a striker. He's never been a striker. And they keep having him in this role where he's got to be back up to the strikers. They move him out of his best position, left side, put him striker, and it simply doesn't work. So why they keep taking away their best player from his best position to put him up front where it doesn't work, I don't know. But Erik ten Hag seems to be insistent on trying it. Still no Rasmus Højlund more than likely for this game as well, which is a massive, massive blow. As for Nottingham Forest, I think impressive the first couple of weeks, certainly against Arsenal, victory against Sheffield United. Love Taiwo Awoniyi. I think it's 6 in 6 for him in the Premier League, back end of last season, start of this. So don't sleep on the Taiwo Awoniyi to score any time market here. That'll bring you a nice tidy for some if you combine it with a score as well. But what this game screams to me is low scoring, because I think Forest may well be able to score one, potentially, but I do think at the back, United still look strong with Varane, Martinez, even Casemiro, if he sits a little bit deeper and stops trying to run, which he can't anymore. I do think that will be a solid foundation for Forest to struggle to get against, and they're not going to be like high up the field like Arsenal were and Sheffield United were at times. Plus, Mason Mount injured, probably Scott McTominay comes in. That feels like a better balance in midfield to me, which is extraordinary considering how much money they spent on Mason Mount during the summer. So what do you pick out in this game? Man United to win at 1.3, not worth your time. What do? We make it also a low-scoring game, which I think this will be. Take Manchester United to win the game because they're going to win 30 games somehow this season by hook or by crook. You combine that with under 2.5 goals in the match, low-scoring game, as United games have been so far this season, both games under 2.5, brings you in at 4.3. Man United win, under 2.5 goals, 4.3. Really, really good for a Manchester United home game. 1-0 win, 2-0 win, shanked home victory for Manchester United, but worth popping on maybe the day of the game and seeing what the Awoniyi to score bet is. I think that's going to be really, really interesting. I wouldn't go both teams to score. I'd avoid it because I think Forest might struggle to score and Man United will nick one. They'll find a way to outhouse victory like they always do. Keep your comments coming in. Let's get to Everton against Wolverhampton Wanderers, also on Saturday. And is it too early for a relegation 3-pointer or 6-pointer even, forgive me? Maybe. Maybe it is. But I don't know. I mean, Everton have been extraordinarily bad. Like, they're always bad, right? You know this. They're always bad. But they seem extraordinarily bad at this moment in time. Still haven't covered the issue of Dominic Calvert-Lewin constantly being injured. Look, it's not his fault that he broke his cheekbone last week. It's not his fault. It happens. But before that, injury after injury after injury to someone who 4 years ago, we thought could be a 15, 20 goal a season man. He's not. And they haven't done anything to rectify that. Defensively, Ashley Young comes in, awful against Villa last week. Tarkowski had a stinker. If not for Pickford, who gave a penalty away, by the way, they may have lost that 7 or 8-0 against Villa last week. So truly, truly terrible under Sean Dyche. They're going to stay up. They'll find a way to stay up. You know what they'll do. They'll sack the manager in January. They'll bring someone else in. It'll somehow get them 5 wins and they'll stay up. They do it every year. As for Wolverhampton Wanderers, impressed us all, I think, performance-wise against Man United on the opening weekend. Didn't win. Impressed nobody in the game against Brighton last week and got roundly shellacked at Molineux. Look, I think Gary O'Neill is a very competent, good manager. I do think he's walked into someone else's team, someone else's squad, and he's trying to make it work from the get-go. Wolves do not score goals. The potential sale of Mateus Nunes to Manchester City complicates things as well. Is he not going to be in the matchday squad? What does that leave you? It leaves you Cunha trying to drive the team, and that's about it. Neves gone, Matinho gone, Nunes probably gone. Issues for Wolverhampton Wanderers to try and deal with. Low scoring, you won't believe I'm going to say here. Low scoring. Again, I wouldn't always go exact score. I very rarely do. But I will just say 0-0 is 9-1. 0-0 is 9-1. I think that's really interesting here. Look, draw is 3.5. I'd probably just take that. However, draw at 9, nice. I think that's really, really good. There's one I've picked out here, which is Everton to win the game and under 2.5 goals in the match. I would even look at under 1.5, which makes it a slightly bigger. But under 2.5 goals in the game and Everton win is 4.8. Do you think in your heart of hearts there's going to be more than 2 goals in this game? I don't. If Everton are to win it, are they going to score more than twice? I don't think so. It screams 1-0 Everton. It screams 0-0 draw. We shall see. But low scoring, I might just check in on the result on this one as opposed to watch it. Everton is just at 2.5 to win is quite nice as well. We stick with Saturday. One more game to go on Saturday. It's always a horrible one for me as a West Ham fan. Brighton against West Ham United. And did you know, I get to do this all the time now, West Ham have not beaten Brighton since 2012. That was the last time West Ham beat Brighton. Ricardo Veste scored in a 6-0 victory at the Bowling Ground, which has since been demolished and rebuilt into houses, and the Olympic Stadium has been built. It was the year of the Olympics in London, the last time West Ham beat Brighton. Yikes. Look, Brighton have been fantastic, haven't they? First couple of games of the season, they've been extraordinary. The goals have been good. The first goal against Wolves, the Mitoma run, I mean, it's jaw-droppingly good. Solly March looks like one of the best players in the league right now, something which is all down to his personal development and drive, plus the coaching on offer from Roberto De Zerbi and previously Graham Potter. But, I mean, player for player, this is not an amazing team. James Milner's playing at fullback at 37. Danny Welbeck is playing up front. Billy Gilmore, who had previously flopped in the Premier League for Norwich and Chelsea in midfield. On paper, it's a beatable team. In reality, not a chance for West Ham United this weekend. On West Ham, look, I think they should have won at Bournemouth on the opening day. I think that there was a lot of swirl around West Ham going into that match, and at 1-0 up, if they were a bit more positive, if they had some positive changes to make from the bench, would they have gone on to win it? I think they would. I think they're trying to add offensive players this week, having spent all summer really trying to find a way to cover for the loss of Declan Rice, which Edson Alvarez and James Ward-Prowse certainly do. But I think this is too much for them. Good win last week for West Ham. They'll try the exact same thing, score and hold on. They went 1-0 up against Brighton a couple of years ago. Tried to do a similar thing. Antonio scored, went on to lose the game by 3-1. And I can only see a Brighton win here. Certainly, it's not worth my money to bet on West Ham. 6-1 is nice for West Ham, who are a better team than I think we're giving them credit for at the start of the season, despite the kind of misery around them. But no chance against Brighton this weekend. History, recent form, all of it doesn't favour West Ham. So a few bets for you here. Wouldn't take 1.58, even though I think it will come in. Brighton with a -1 handicap. That's 2-0 or 3-0 or above is 2.25. I think that's really nice. It screams 2-0 victory for Brighton and Hove Albion, goals in each halves. There's also a couple of really interesting bets you can do in terms of correct score group betting, which I often don't like, but I do quite like this, only because I think Brighton are going to score 3 goals. I have a gut feeling for it. They can score lots. West Ham slow at the back. Again, suspended. I think they'll score a few. A correct score group bet, 3-0, 3-1, or 3-2, brings you in at 5-1. Now, that will cover both teams to score side. That will also cover Brighton winning and also covers 2 out of 3. Brighton win, both teams to score. So I think there's a good market there on correct score group betting. I would also just pick another one out. I don't have the odds for this because it wasn't available to me this morning. I'm sure it will be on the day. Look at West Ham to score a corner. Always look every week at West Ham to score a corner. One last week, I think they'll score a corner 20 of the 38 weeks of the season. Ward-Prowse onto Zuma, Souček, Antonio, potentially Alvarez, whoever's at centre-half, not this week again, so Bonner. Come on, West Ham to score a corner has got to be on your list for most weekends. But go Brighton there, and we get on to Sunday now with Sheffield United up against Manchester City. Look, this doesn't take up much of our time, this one, does it? Sheffield United have added a couple of players this week. Tom Davies has come in to replace Sander Berge, who's gone to Burnley. Still trying to cover the loss of Ndiaye up front. But look, if you're going to bet on any... Hey, you came back. That's good. I'm pleased you returned.
I was kicked out. I don't know. Sorry. Apologies.
You just didn't want to hear me talk about Brighton against West Ham, did you?
System doesn't like me. What to say?
That's what it is. We just got to Sheffield United, Man City. Do you want to intro it or do you want me to do it?
Go ahead, please.
I'll do it. It's not going to be long, so it's fine. You can get ready for the next one, which is Newcastle Liverpool, because, look, it ain't going to be pretty, this one, right? I think the issue here with Man City, and this is why they're difficult to bet on at the moment, is that they used to, think about the Watford FA Cup final, that era, they used to want to crush you, like Ivan Drago. And now they're so competent. They're a winning machine. They're a goal-scoring machine. They get the job done, they leave. They don't humiliate you. They just take the 3 points and they're gone. That's why City games are often so tough to watch now, because you used to get a bit of drama and entertainment. Now you don't get it. And for them to win 1.2, I mean, it's not worth your time. Sheffield United are not going to win this game as long as I haven't got hair, right? It's never going to happen. It ain't growing back, and I'm not going to Turkey anytime soon. So this is the way it's going to be. How do you make some money? You got to look at the handicaps. A -2 handicap for City for this game brings you in at around 2.38, 2.4, 2.5, which is fine for Man City. They're going to win this game 3-0, I think. A -3 handicap, 4s and 5s, which the old City would have done, brings you in at 4.5. Now, that's a bit brave, and it discounts everything I've just said about Manchester City, but that's the only way you're going to make money on this season, really. So you're going to need to look at those markets. -2, 2.38, probably your best bet. I'd also have a look at just to score goals in this particular game. City to score 3 or more goals brings you in at 1.91. That's over 2.5. That's 3, that's 4, that's 5. I think they'll score a few against the Championship defense. That's how you make some money here.
Well, Tom, breathe, drink some water, relax. I think you've talked a lot, but I finally paid my internet bill, as someone is saying. So I am back to see that you are back in Man City again this weekend. And I'm here also to listen to your last tip, the best game we have this weekend. Newcastle, Liverpool. Not sure if you are impressed by the 2 games we've seen so far of Liverpool. Many doubts in their victory against Bournemouth. We are not going to see McAllister against Newcastle, and we know how tough Newcastle can be. They beat comfortably Aston Villa in the first match day at home, and they lost by a short margin with Man City. So I'm not completely sure about these odds to place this favorite Newcastle, or how would you do it? It's strange not to see Liverpool as the underdog.
Well, a quick note on that. Alexis McAllister's red from last week has been rescinded by the referees yesterday, probably while you were asleep. So it's been rescinded. So he can play this weekend, which I was surprised about. I thought it was red enough to not overturn, but it has been overturned, so he should be available. We'll get to Liverpool in a second. Let's start with Newcastle, because I do think they were very good against Villa on the opening day, certainly in terms of being clinical in front of goal. Someone picked Villa to win that, but let's not talk about it. But the others I got right. But the game against City last week, I was disappointed. I was disappointed at the lack of goal threat they had in the game. They didn't have a shot. They did that thing they did at the back end of last season, thinking about Arsenal away, where they step away from the things they're really good at, Newcastle, which is being incisive on the break, pushing bodies forward, trying to create chances. And they didn't do that against Man City last week, which was disappointing. I don't think they'll be as negatives too strong, but as cautious here as they were in that game, because A, they got thrashed in this game last season, so there's revenge to be had. B, even with McAllister, the Liverpool midfield is still short, I think, of a destroyer and also balance. And also, if the new signing comes in from the Bundesliga, does that give them enough cover in midfield for Van Dijk and Konate, who I think there are issues with, and Trent Alexander-Arnold? He wants to be defensive midfielder, leaves right back open all the time. I would hate to be Liverpool this week with Harvey Barnes running at them, which I think should happen from the start here. As for Liverpool, not impressed really on the opening couple of games. I think that there have been obvious issues. Going forward, they're spectacular. I've got to say that. You know, the group of players they have in Luis Diaz, who's been extraordinary first couple of games, Mo Salah, who again has not quite come to the fore as yet, Diogo Jota, Darwin Nunez, Cody Gakpo. I mean, it's incredible, the quality of player they have, but they seem to have bought all the same players and neglected the rest of the team. That is an issue here for Liverpool. And I think someone like Curtis Jones or, Curtis Jones, I think he comes in and gives a solidity to this midfield that's been lacking in the absence of Henderson and Milner. In terms of the game, there's a few interesting things here. I think draw is very high on my agenda here. 4-1 for a draw is really, really interesting. These two teams are very closely matched. I do think Newcastle will stop Liverpool scoring lots of goals, and I do think Liverpool, if they concede, can get back in the game and level things up. I see it being quite tight at the start of the game, and as the game goes on, Newcastle move on to win it. Draw at halftime, Newcastle to win at full time brings you in at 6-1. So Newcastle just to win is double your money, which is fine. And I would take that over Liverpool, even though it's Liverpool. But if you want to make a 6-1 bet here, I really, really like that. Level. As the game goes on, St. James's Park rises to its feet. Newcastle nick a couple of goals. Plus, they can take off Isak, bring on Wilson. They can take off Almiron, bring on Barnes. They've got great depth now, Newcastle, which wasn't there before. On the other market for draw, which is now 4-1, you can also get draw and under 2.5 goals, which is 0-0 or 1-1. It says 1-1 draw to me. That's at 6-1 as well. So a couple of tips here at 6-1. The 1-1 draw, which is basically 1-1 draw here without actually saying it, and draw at halftime. Newcastle win in the end, also at 6-1. There's my tips.
Well, most of the people here are going for Newcastle, actually, even if they are the favorites for this game. The 2.3 is good enough for most of the people, except for Viper, who is going also for a draw, like you are saying, Tom or Armin. Liverpool to score to put it in your ACCA. Let's see in your ACCA in a few moments. We have to say that the head-to-head between these two teams gave us Liverpool winning. Last season, Liverpool won at St. James's Park, also at Anfield. And before we finish this video, we have one more game to analyze. Tom, at 3 p.m. on Sunday, we have Burnley, Aston Villa in Turf Moor. I'm looking forward to seeing Unai Emery's Aston Villa. They thrashed Hibs in the conference 5-0 in the middle of the week. They destroyed Everton as well in Matchday 2. They played against Newcastle in the first Matchday and they lost. So, contrary to Emery's rule, we are seeing a lot of goals in Aston Villa games. Burnley used to be a tough stadium to go to, like Monday evening at Turf Moor. Be careful. Is this going to be the case?
No, I don't think so. Look, the way it was difficult for teams is that Sean Dyche would just ruin games of football and try and brutalise the opponent until they won and score from corners. That is not this team. And I'm yet to see anything that's impressed me about Burnley in the Premier League. I'm sure it'll happen in time. They were impressive in the Championship, but I do feel like at the moment, I don't know enough about them. 6 debuts 6 debuts there were on the opening day of the season, so I think that's a problem. And so are yet to learn about them. We have learned about Aston Villa. I do think Villa are really, really good. They were great on Wednesday night in the Conference League qualifier, easily through against Hibs. Take them here to win at just 2.2 because I think that's a really good odds for Aston Villa. They're really good odds, and I do think that just Villa to win at the moment at 2.2, that's going to go down. We're going to be looking in a few weeks at 1.9, 1.7, so take it while you can. Villa to win without conceding, which I also fancy, is 3.75. Villa to win to 0. And also, as I picked out in the last one, I do quite like this one as well. Draw at half-time, 0-0. Villa go on to win at full-time. That brings you in at 5-1. So there's 3 really nice Aston Villa bets, and I'm not going to pick Burnley until they do something that impresses me.
Keep it simple and win. Actually, the odds are going up. Tom, right now we have the highest odds for Villa to win. So take them if you trust Unai Emery, because the market was open at 1.8 and right now we have 2.2. So perhaps it goes down until the kickoff time. So it's a good point to place our bets. Tom, you've won 2 ACCAs this season. It's 100% accuracy. Before we go with your ACCA, let's see your safe bet. Also went through last weekend, we have to say.
Yeah, and I'm going again with the safest of safe bets. That's a win for Manchester City, 1.22. It doesn't bring you a great deal of money, but this is safe as houses. City.
Very safe, very safe. And your ACCA?
ACCA doesn't involve City because it doesn't change your odds. So I'm leaving them out of it because it won't change anything. I'm bringing one in here at just under 2-1, or just over 2-1 even. Brighton Hove Albion to win against West Ham because they always beat West Ham. Chelsea will beat Luton. I know betting on Chelsea is not the smartest thing to do right now, but surely they're going to beat Luton. And Arsenal to beat Fulham. Fulham look disjointed. Arsenal look like they're building some steam. 2.5 for Chelsea, Brighton, Arsenal. Feels like an easy win to me.
I feel confident with this ACCA. Adam is telling us. Did you feel lonely, Tom, without me in the video?
To be honest, I wasn't happy to do it without you, and I refuse to do it again.
Please, let's be together next week when we do match day 4. Thanks, everyone, as always, for watching. Don't forget to tell us your tips, your comments, and, of course, press the like and subscribe. See you, Tom, next week. Thank you very much.